Welcome to Laguna's grades 5 through 8 virtual open house. We're delighted that you are looking at Laguna as a school option. My name is Joyce Ballack, and I'm the Director of Admission here at Laguna. And with us this evening is Ellen Dameron. Ellen, wave there, as part of our admission team. And I'm sure many of you have already engaged with Ellen, so it's great to have her with us. Our goal this evening is to really give you a broad overview of Laguna's programs, primarily through the eyes of our students. We hope this gives you a sense and a glimpse of what your child would experience as a student here at Laguna. Before we get into the program, I just want you to know that we are recording this event, and we will make it available through our website, and I will send the link as well. If you have questions during the presentation, please put them in the chat box and remain muted during the presentation. As we get to the Q&A portion of the evening, you can unmute yourself and ask your questions, or you can put them in a chat box and we will monitor that and address those questions. But it gives me great pleasure to introduce Ron Sino, who is our head of school, to kick off the evening. Thank you, Ron.
Thanks, Joyce. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Ron Sino. I am head of school, and I've been here. This is my second year at Laguna. I was the head of school at a day and boarding school back east for 9 years and actually worked there for 20 in different roles. I came to Laguna because I was just excited by the community here and the ways in which people interact with one another and the ways in which we educate students through all aspects of the program. Middle school is such an important time. Students change so much from 5th grade to 8th grade. And I think that our blend of character education and values-based education alongside the academic challenge and some of the increasing freedoms that students have during their time in middle school is actually a great blend that allows students to grow up, to start to become the people that they want to become, and really set the stage for an incredible high school experience as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Shane Lopes shortly, or at least back over to Joyce in a moment. I wanted to apologize before I jump off because I'm actually headed to another school event this evening. We're having a kickoff for our gala event this spring tonight, and so I haven't figured out how to clone myself or be in two places at once yet, but I hope that you all have a wonderful night. I'm sure you will, and I'm always available later for questions as needed, and hope to see you on campus for some of our events. So Joyce, thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Ron. And it also gives me great pleasure to introduce Shane Lopes, who is head of our middle school. And I will turn it over to Shane, who will introduce you to the students and our program.
Great, thank you so much. It's a privilege to be here. It's a privilege to serve the community in this role. This is my 5th year as the head of middle school and my 10th year working here at Laguna Blanca. I've worn various hats ranging from dean of students in the high school and teacher and coach. I'm also a proud and happy lower school parent. We have 2 children in the lower school program down in Montecito. And it's just a real honor to be part of the Laguna Blanca community. And one of the reasons why it's such an honor is just to be a part of the lives of our students. And our students are working so hard each and every day. You know, we're almost at Thanksgiving break, and here they are on a Tuesday evening. So round of applause from afar to our students for dedicating their time to present to you this evening. We'll begin with an overview that I'll provide. I'll share my screen in a minute, and we'll highlight various aspects of our program and our approach to teaching and learning and some of our signature projects. And then I'll introduce our students, and the bulk of the program will be dedicated, as Mrs. Ballack mentioned, to the students speaking on behalf of their own experience. So they'll introduce themselves, describe their favorite class, and then dive a little deeper about some of the various topics that we really value here at Laguna. And then, as Mrs. Ballack mentioned, we'll close with some Q&A. All right. So this is Swoop, our mascot, and as a Laguna Blanca student and family, you would be a fellow owl. And one of our annual events that we all look forward to is a culmination of Spirit Week. And this picture captures the spirit of our Laguna Blanca community. This is the Jogathon. You can see the owl mascot on this student's t-shirt. And just a great time to be an owl at Laguna. This is an event and a week during the month of October. So we had that a little while ago, and it was a real blast. But one of our core values is community, and it really rings true during this time. And, you know, as we talk about community, one of the things that we value most within that is building relationships. And that's really the foundation of everything that we do. We want to make sure that we reach our students before we teach our students. And similarly, we want to reach our families to establish a home and school partnership. And so I chose these photos here because it just captures those very things. So here on the left, we have a family association event. This is one of many events in the beginning of the year and throughout the year where families and parents can get to know one another. And we look forward to those friendships and acquaintances being formed amongst the families who are raising middle school students. And they're going through that journey as well. And then over here on the right, which is also the same time of year, first week of school, we start off with orientation, where the students can get oriented with the campus, and then we send them off on a grade level trip with various destinations. Most destinations involve water, whether it's the ocean or a pool nearby. The 8th grade trip was an urban trip, so one of the few that did not have water to spend extra time swimming in. But you know, one of the main reasons why we start the year off outside the classroom is to break the ice. We want the new students to become acquainted with one another. We want the students to become acquainted with one another, and as well as the students and the teachers. And then that following week is when we truly begin our academic rotation. And so I talked about the trips, which is there on the left. There's a few destinations listed. Love that picture in the ocean at Santa Cruz Island. Or maybe that's Catalina. And then if we switch over to the middle here, our approach to pedagogy, or approach to teaching, is very much project-based in the middle school with an interdisciplinary design, much like our lower school program. And on the right, you can see a list of various themes. And the themes, they hold multiple subjects into one. And so each quarter, the essential questions for a particular grade level are reiterated in various classes, and our faculty work really closely with one another. They meet as grade level teams on a regular basis, and they're constantly reevaluating their curriculum and finding new ways to engage our students in various projects. These projects in the middle, one of them is the archaeological dig. Some of our students on this call were 6th graders here, and this is a real fun project where they're digging up artifacts in the spring of their 6th grade year. And then over there on the right is an 8th grader who is launching the rocket that she developed with her team. And Mr. Moore, our 8th grade science teacher, has a real sophisticated point system where they're not only evaluating the speed, velocity, and height of the rockets, but they place a food item within that rocket, and depending on whether that food item survives will then result with certain points. So depending on the confidence that a student has in the rocket, they might choose an orange or an avocado, but if they're really confident, they'll choose an egg. And I've only seen an egg survive just a couple times, but that's always a good experience there in the spring. In addition to project-based learning and going back to our focus on relationship building, we hope that trust and mutual respect is developed amongst our students and teachers, which then leads to the ability for there to be extra attention for each student, where they can trust them for additional support. And we're also going to be committed to meeting each student where they are. Some students are at different levels, and our teachers go above and beyond to offer their time to support our students, while also stretching our students beyond what maybe they think they can do. And it is a fine balance. We do value rigor and challenge here at Laguna, but not to a point where it would compromise the well-being of our students. So we value personal time and family time and downtime. And that's where that expression on the right, stretch, not stress, comes in. It's an expression that various administrators and teachers use here. I would be lying if I were to say that the presentation on the right, Mission to Mars, doesn't create stress for our students, but I do know that they come out of that experience confident in their ability to present in front of an audience, just as they are tonight. And so with that, I will then just broadly covers, these are some of the skills that we value here at Laguna, and our students are going to speak to these skills more specifically. But skill building is really what matters most to us. The content and the knowledge is very important. And in addition to that, we hope our students will develop the skills necessary to be successful, not only in high school, but beyond in this ever-changing world. And this is a list of skills that we really care about. And I'll just highlight the ownership of learning. You know, we really want our students to advocate for themselves and take ownership of our learning and learn because they want to and find interest in various subjects. And later in the program, I'll show you just a range of course offerings that we have, which provide options for students so they can try something new. We'll also dive a little deeper in some courses that they already have a passion for. So starting with our first student, who will be speaking about individualized attention, we'll turn it over to Carolina Duran, and I'll stop sharing my screen. All right, Carolina, take it away.
Hi, my name is Carolina. I am in 8th grade and I came to Laguna in kindergarten. My favorite middle school class so far is Intro to Engineering. It is a class that can teach you so many things that you didn't even know. And even if you might not know anything about the class, it's super fun. And one of the main reasons it's fun and interesting is because of the teachers at Laguna. And they're just amazing. I remember time in math where I was struggling with homework, and I emailed my teacher about it, and he responded almost immediately, and he set up a time we could meet the very next day. He helped me, I understood it, and they're just always willing to help you. They set up their office hours for you. It's awesome. I just love them.
Great, thank you so much. Appreciate your comments, Carolina. And now we'll turn it over to Marshall Graham, 8th grader, who will speak about critical thinking and practical application to the content in his class.
Hello, I'm Marshall Graham. I'm in 8th grade. I came to Laguna in 7th grade. My favorite class was marine science. It was last year, but it was really fun, and we learned a lot about the ocean and the different layers. And we got to go to the beach sometimes and learn by physical touch and not just on a screen. Another class that taught me a lot was debate. And I learned that not everyone has the same opinions, and that to accomplish something, you have to work with them, not against. And this helped me win in 7th grade. We have a fake UN summit, and my group and I had disagreements, how we present and other things. But we worked around our issues and completed the summit. And I think we did really well. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you, Marshall. And now I'll turn it over to Stella Paez, who can speak more about the student-teacher relationships.
Hi, my name is Stella Paez. I'm in 8th grade and I came to Laguna in 7th grade. So one of my favorite classes is science because Mr. Moore is a very understanding teacher, and he students to feel comfortable in them, and he's very approachable if you have a or anything really. And we have experiments almost every single day in class, which allows us to represent the topics that we're learning in a more hands-on way, which for me personally helps me understand the topic in more depth. And one student-teacher relationship that has really impacted my experience at Laguna was in 7th grade. My teacher, Mr. Briggs, for Latin, he was very passionate about the language that he had been learning for previous years. And his humor allowed me to feel comfortable and relieved my stress in class. His tactics for teaching were very interactive, articulate, challenging. And he increased the passion of the students for that class. And I know that every time that someone walked into his classroom, they just wanted to learn more and more.
Great. Thank you so much, Stella and Marshall and Carolina. Really appreciate your remarks. And now we'll move on to talking about a little bit more about our curriculum and what you can expect. And so this every student has 8 classes on their docket there, but they only take 5 classes per day, and we have a rotating schedule. 5 of the 8 classes are the classes that you see here, whether you're in 5th grade or 6th or 7th or 8th grade. And then in addition to these 5 academic classes, we also have electives. And then in addition to your 2 electives per semester, you have physical education in your grade level. So there's a 7th grade physical education, 8th grade physical education. And this is just a snapshot of some of the elective choices that you could expect during course registration or while you're developing your schedule in the summer. And in addition to our value in physical education and foreign language and the core academics that were listed in the previous slide, we also very much value the arts. And so of the 8 semesters or 8 semester long electives that one would have 7th or 8th grade, for example, a certain number of those electives have to be within the arts, and there's choice within that requirement, but we want to make sure that all students have experience in the visual arts and the performing arts. And then, as you can see here, we have some other courses that are interdisciplinary, whether it's entrepreneurship or writer's workshop, yearbook. Most of our electives are middle school electives for students in grades 7 and 8. Some of our electives are for grades 6 through 8. And we also have a couple electives that are for grades 7 through 12, which include our yearbook class taught by Mr. Dorfman, our Dean of Students. And just to imagine what your schedule might look like on any given day, on the right, we'll just start on the right, just the general schedule. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we have classes from 8:15 to 2:50. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we have a late start day. So our faculty have meetings in the morning, and the students, they have a little extra time to either sleep, rest, catch up on homework, and we don't start till 9 o'clock. And then we have our afternoon athletic program as listed. And then if you look over on the left, this is just what the view would be for the student when they log into our portal, which is called My Laguna. And on the left, you can see the times. And as you can see, there's 5 classes per day. Each class is associated with a letter. And since we have 8 classes, the letters are A through H. And the rotating schedule allows students to experience a class at different times of the day. So on this particular day, F period is at 8:15. And the next day, F period would be at 9:15. Potentially, and then they wouldn't have class for F period until a couple days later. And so on average, you have each class 3 times per week, and each class meets 5 times over the course of an 8-day cycle. So for those of you that are familiar with the rotating schedule, it's 5 class occurrences over the course of 8 days. And if you're completely lost and confused, don't worry, it's in real life action. It's a great experience, and the students can speak more to that. But I think the students understand it better than the adults at times. But I just wanted to provide you with what the schedule would look like. One of the reasons why we switch from 8 periods in a day to 5 is kind of stating the obvious here, which is reducing the number of transitions for our students, so they have less transitions from one class to the next. And in addition to that, you'll see that at that late morning hour, we have a block period, which then lends itself to project-based learning. And so every class has an opportunity over the course of a rotation for a 75 to 80 minute period. So that's our schedule in a nutshell, and I'll be happy to answer questions later in the program. Now we're going to switch over to Luca, who can speak about his experience in the performing arts and how he's been able to find the courage to perform on stage. So Luca, take it away.
All right. Hello, my name is Luca and I am in 8th grade. So first of all, I just want to talk about my favorite class this year, and that would be history. In history, our teacher is Miss Sun, and she is a very good person and very kind, but also very strict and wants us to be on topic. She doesn't accept talking during class, and she takes history very seriously. And so she was teaching us a bit about American history and the French and Indian War and how we got our independence from England, which is why history fascinates me in general, because you never know, the tides can always churn between two countries, and then they can just one of them can get colonized and the other one can't. So yeah.
Great, thank you, Luca. And if you can just expand on your experience in the performing arts.
Yeah, so I'm in the pop and rock ensemble, which is one of the bands at Laguna. And first of all, I would like to say that I've been taking this class since last year, so I'm taking it again since it's a lot of fun to be on stage, and it gives you the courage later on to speak in front of people and to perform in front of larger and smaller audiences. And I would like to say that when you start pop and rock, your first concert, you might be a little concerned, you might have some stage fright, but you get over it really quickly and you learn to adapt to the stage. And so the teacher who teaches this class, his name is Mr. Wallace, and he is a very talented musician. He plays guitar, drums, bass, piano, ukulele, xylophone, any instrument you can name, basically. And he really enjoyed my musical talent this year and last year, and he inspired me to start playing bass guitar, which is like guitar but with 4 strings, and it makes a deeper sound. And that's one thing that I really appreciate about this course, that you'll walk into the classroom on the first day and you'll say, oh man, I don't know how to play an instrument. And then Mr. Wallace will say, oh, I know exactly which instrument will suit you. And then he'll hand you a guitar, he might hand you a ukulele, he'll even put you on the drums. And by the time you know it, you know how to play a beat or how to play a simple song. And then you can take that knowledge further by yourself.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's inspiring to see you all perform. I don't know how you were able to perform Frank Sinatra and I don't know, what was it, Billy Joel and Red Hot Chili Peppers all on the same show, but you all do wonderful work in the music program. Now we'll pass the mic back to Carolina, who we've all been acquainted with, and she'll speak a little bit more about her experience with collaborative learning and our interactive approach. Carolina, take it away.
All right. So in each class, you should expect at least once that you collaborate with different students. And it's really, really nice because when you're put into groups that maybe you don't know a lot of people, it's time, like this is the time you can connect with them, build friendships. And also when you're working with them, you can bounce ideas off them, different opinions. So it's like really great because you can just hear everyone else's opinions and like take it into your own words, and it's awesome. You can just learn so much things that you didn't even think of.
Great, thank you so much. Appreciate that. All right, we'll go back to sharing my screen here, and we'll shift gears and talk about wellness. And so I touched on a few of our core values, community. One, Mr. Sino mentioned the character, and then as we've talked about the academics, that ties in with our third core value of scholarship. And then our fourth core value is balance, and balance is a word that's used in many contexts, and it can be applied in various ways. And for the sake of this presentation and this slide right here, it not only pertains to the physical well-being of our students, but also the social and the emotional well-being. And so it's important for you to know that your student will have physical education in their program, much like the lower school program. There's an optional afternoon athletics program, but most of our students participate in. Challenge Success is listed here, and not everyone is familiar with that. And Challenge Success is a program out of Stanford University, and we're a member of that program. And many of the principles that Challenge Success has led to some of the policies that we have and some of the approaches that we have to running the middle school. A couple of them include our policy for the number of tests a student has in a day. And so the teacher interface includes a calendar called the assessment calendar. This is one example where the teachers can see the number of assessments and the dates for the assessments and major deadlines that students have for a given grade level, and know not to assign a third or more assessment on a given day. And it's because we don't want our students to be overloaded and burnt out. So the goal is to have no more than 2 major assessments or deadlines on a day. Homework, we do not allow homework to be due on Monday if it was assigned on a Friday. There's some exceptions to that. If classwork wasn't completed on a Friday, then it could be due on Monday, but we don't want to surprise students with a Friday afternoon or Thursday afternoon assignment that's due the very next morning. If it's a high stakes assignment that's going to be time consuming and take the students away from their families. And so that's another example of a policy that was related to Challenge Success. And then in addition to our physical wellness and social wellness that we hope to preserve, we also have a few categories here that our students will talk about later in the program that relate to our advisory program and our student-led conferences. So we'll get to that in a minute. And so, yeah, let's actually turn it over right now. So starting with Annabelle Waldinger, 8th grader, take it away.
Hi, I'm Annabelle. I'm in 8th grade at Laguna. I came here last year in 7th grade. I'd say my favorite class at Laguna would have to be my 7th grade geography class, because I had never taken a geography class alone before. It had always been intertwined with history. And I went from barely knowing where the US was to being able to name and locate every country on a map. And what helped that was having a really great teacher, Mr. Zalik. He was very passionate about geography and he was very supportive. I've loved my time at Laguna, but something that really helped me and stood out to me was the advisory program. So I was immediately able to connect with my advisor, and every Monday we have advisory meetings, and they're just a great way to check in and just think about how the week's gonna go. And advisors are also part of your student-led conferences that are also with your families. And student-led conferences stand out because it's a way for the student to reflect on how they think they're doing rather than just how the teacher thinks they're doing. And it's a way for students' opinions to be valued through parents and advisors.
Great, thank you, Annabelle. And just to expand on that, we have a period in the schedule, and you may have noticed it on the slide earlier. It's called community time. And community time occurs on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And that's a general term for the time frame in the day when advisory meets. And so on Mondays, middle schoolers meet in their advisory groups, and the advisory groups are 8 to 10 students. And as Annabelle mentioned, each student has an advisor, and the advisor is really the conduit of communication between home and school for the students' overall well-being and academic progress, and any other questions that may come up. And as Annabelle mentioned, the advisor is there for the student-led conference. In addition to that, we have an assembly. So every Wednesday during community time, we meet as a middle school student body and faculty and have various announcements and games at our outdoor theater. And then on Fridays, community time, the program varies between recess and competitions and various activities. So it's just really a lot of fun. All right, so now we're gonna turn it over to Amelia Noble, who is a 9th grader, and she was here in the middle school and represent our student leadership team. So Amelia, thank you for coming back to us in the middle school. Take it away.
Yeah, hi. So my name is Amelia. I'm a 9th grader. I came to Laguna in 7th grade. If I had to pick one favorite class, it would probably have to be Mr. Moore's 8th grade science class. We learned a lot in just 1 year through a lot of hands-on like experiments and super cool projects. And the teacher, Mr. Moore, he had a way of making science, which isn't necessarily like my forte, into something that was really fun and accessible, and took something that some may see as like boring into something that's really, really fun and exciting. And it's a class that you always look forward to. And then another thing that's super cool about Laguna is the student leadership program. So I was on student leadership in both 7th and 8th grade, and it's open to anybody who is interested in joining. And it's a group of, last year, I think it was maybe like 10, 15 kids. And we met once or twice a week at lunches, and we would organize school events, fundraisers, bake sales, that sort of thing. One thing that the student leadership team did was organize the school dances, which are always a blast. We had 2 last year. We had an 80s themed dance, and we had a Winter Wonderland dance, both of which were lots of fun. Another super cool thing that we did last year is we hosted a talent show in the middle school, and we raised a couple $100 through the talent show for an organization called Hope for Ukraine. And we were able to donate and help those out who are suffering in Ukraine right now. But all in all, I think that the student leadership program is a really cool way for students to be able to speak out about and have a say in things that are going on in campus, and have great experience with leadership roles. I'm also in leadership as a high schooler, and my experience on the student leadership in middle school has been a great benefit. All in all, I think it's just a great program that everybody should look into and definitely check out.
Great, thank you so much. And that's actually a great segue, because one of the stars of the talent show was our very own Aaron Schweitzer. I don't know if anyone on the call was there, but I think he might have had a stand-up ovation. I'm not sure, but Aaron Schweitzer, take it away and talk to us a little bit about your experience socially here at Laguna.
Hello, my name is Aaron Schweitzer. I came to Laguna in 6th grade. Right now I'm in 7th grade, and probably my favorite class would be Latin class, because not only do you get to learn a new language, but you also get to learn about the ancient Roman life. And our teacher, my teacher is amazing. His name is Mr. Briggs, and he's really outgoing, like teacher, and he makes everything fun no matter what. Like he turns everything into kind of a game, and he just is a really, really nice teacher. Going back to Mr. Lopes, the social aspects at Laguna Blanca is I was part of a talent show where my advisor signed our whole advisory up to do a talent show. And basically what we did was a lip sync battle with each other, and we dressed up in costumes, and we had like a like person to teach us all the dance moves that her friend brought up from LA. And that's one of the social aspects, because I definitely made a lot of friends after the talent show and during it, like working together. And another area was community time. Community time is a lot of fun to make friends, play games, and have fun whenever. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Aaron. And students and families on the call, I know you're taking a lot of information in. We're headed toward the end of the program. We have a few more speakers and then we'll turn it over to you for questions. And so we'll just close with a topic that we've, before we move on to athletics, a topic that we've already touched on a few times, and that's project-based learning. And another word that you may be familiar with or expression is growth mindset. And we highlighted that just a little bit when we were talking about the goal to stretch our students' perspectives, their work capacity through various challenges and projects that push them out of their comfort zone. And our various presentations, like the one that was on the screen, is a prime example of that. And so we've asked Amelia, who has already spoke, as well as Nicolo, who's a 9th grader, who experienced our middle school program, to just expand on that a little bit more and speak about their experience in classes where project-based learning was very much a central approach in the class, as well as the opportunity to really grow intellectually and as a collaborator, thinking critically in various activities. So we'll start with Amelia, and then we'll turn it over to Nicolo.
Yeah, so the projects that we do in the middle school are tons of fun. In 7th grade, we had the Model European Union project, where I was in a group of 2, and we were assigned a country, and we had to research a social or political issue that was going on in that country and give a presentation. And another big project was in 8th grade. We had the Mission to Mars project, where we were in a group of 8 to 10 people, and we had to give about a half-an-hour presentation about our plan on how we were going to get mankind to the red planet, which was tons of fun. Yes, it was a lot of work, but it really paid off, and it was really cool at the end when we all gave our presentations to just see all of our hard work in one cumulative moment. It was really great also learning how to work with people. Sometimes you might have disagreements, or you might have things that don't work out, but you have to learn how to work with one another, work together for a common goal in order to achieve the greater goal, which is that big assignment. But I think the projects are a lot of fun. Another thing is that they're intertwined in between classes. So we might have historical aspects where we look at, for the Mission to Mars project, the history of mankind in space. And there's also obviously the science aspect of how are we going to get to space. And then we had aspects in English, and we work on it in all of our different classes. And it just made the whole thing really special. So that was definitely one of my favorite experiences in middle school.
Great, thank you, Amelia. And Nicolo.
All right, I'm just gonna introduce myself real quick. I'm Nicolo. I'm currently in 9th grade at Laguna. I came here in 3rd grade. This is my 6th year here. So my favorite class currently, there's a lot of great classes, but right now my favorite class, Miss Tidy's 9th grade English class, closely following Mr. Moore Science. When I think of project-based learning or big STEM projects, my mind goes straight to 8th grade science. No doubt about it. Mr. Moore is a wonderful teacher with a very thought out and well-developed curriculum. His class in 3 words is literally project-based learning. We launch rockets, build rovers, construct mini roller coasters. Every class we do big or small experiments. My favorite project was obviously Mission to Mars. It's a great team building experience. Overall, just very well curated at Mr. Moore. It's one of those projects where you put in what you get out. And if you give it your all, then you're going to come back feeling proud of yourself. So in general, in all the classes we're doing, especially in STEM, there's just a lot of hands-on project-based learning, from using a 3D printer and learning design process in 6th grade to Mr. Moore's chemistry and physics labs in 8th. Mission Mars was definitely, for me at least, biggest project in middle school, and it really left a big impact on me. Helped me look at group work in a different light, and I think just so far every step of my high school experience has been another step in my learning journey, and I don't think it was made possible without my middle school learning experience.
Great, thank you so much, Nicolo, and all the students for taking the time to share about your experience. We really value it so much. It's so good to hear it from your perspective. Mr. Steinhaus, are you on the call? Not sure if Mr. Steinhaus is on the call. Mr. Steinhaus is our athletic director. He's a busy man. We're switching into a new season of sport, and that's okay if he's not here. We can cover the content in his absence. So just looking at our athletic program, middle schoolers, grades 6 through 8, they have practices and games Monday through Thursday from 3 to 4. Games tend to be on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3:45, but that's not always the case. But if you were to think about your child's extracurricular program outside of the school, it's very common for students to participate in a season of sport while also balancing other extracurriculars. Once again, it's not required, it's encouraged, but it's also a great time an opportunity to represent the school, and we play against other schools in the area. 5th grade also has an athletic program with similar sports, just as listed here, but just in a different sequence. And the majority of those athletic teams are co-ed for grades 4th and 5th. So it's a great way to bridge our lower school kiddos with our middle school. And I'm happy to field any questions on Mr. Steinhaus's behalf as it relates to the athletic program. Also mentioned, just as a side note, I didn't touch on it when I was describing the schedule. We also have a bus program that travels between the lower school campus in Montecito and Hope Ranch. So for families that live in Montecito, the bus is an option to consider to save yourself the drive up here to La Cumbre Road exit. And it's common for students to take the bus in the morning and or the afternoon. And I think Mrs. Ballack, I think we're pretty much covered our topics. You want to take it from here?
Sure, Mr. Lopes. I think at this time, we'll just open the evening for questions. You can either put them in the chat box, or please feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question. And we may send them to certain students to gain their answers, or Mr. Lopes can help as well. So you can use the little raise your hand icon, or just unmute yourself and ask the question. It's fine.
I see a few familiar faces and others unfamiliar. Just want to let you all know this is a safe space to ask questions. So feel free to, if you're thinking it, feel free to ask it. We're here to help.
I'll start. I can start if everyone's okay.
Great,
Yeah,
Sean.
go for it, Sean.
How are you? So amazing presentation. Great to hear from all the students. You guys are all really impressive kids. My question to you, you all shared really, really positive experiences, but what kind of challenges have you faced in school, and how have you overcome them?
And students, you are welcome just to tell the honest truth.
Do one of you want to start?
One issue that I've come across on my experience at Laguna is procrastination. A lot of it is because of homework and just not managing my time well, but a lot of the teachers have helped me with that by sometimes giving us class time, extra class time to do our homework, or just like letting us know that if we have too many after school activities or something that is causing us to not be able to complete an assignment, then we can always tell them. But yeah, this school has really helped me with that overall. I think that was my main problem last year, but I've gotten better this year.
Thank you, Stella. Luca, I think you put your hand up. Thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, one issue that I come across frequently is whenever a quarter starts and I have to take a test, I overstress it, and then I'll be honest here, I don't really do as well as I think that I can do. But then again, that's because I still have to get used to the new configuration of how the teacher is teaching the class that quarter. And then after that, my second test, I do a lot better than I did on my first one.
Amelia?
Yeah, so one thing for me is I've been learning in years prior, I didn't really have to study, but recently I realized that I can't do that anymore. And so for me, it's been, I've been working on finding effective study methods and things that work for me. Another great thing is teachers have office hours. So I like to take advantage of the fact that I can meet with my teachers at lunch or during my study hall. And then I can feel more prepared for tests or quizzes and make sure that I really understand the material.
Thank you, guys. Somebody else have a question? Hope that answered it, Sean. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, that was great. Thank you, everybody.
No, I'm not seeing any hands. Mr. Lopes, you might have to help me guide there if you're seeing them.
Oh, yeah, I'll keep my eyes open.
Yeah, great. Well, if there are no questions, I thought maybe I would just go through a little bit of our admission process briefly. If you have questions, we're in sort of our priority admission season. So students and families are coming to tour. If you haven't done that, we arrange class visits for your child. We do have some admission events upcoming for middle school families, a middle school parent class visit day, obviously this evening, but there are a few others upcoming as well, and we will communicate with those with you. So applications are due February 1st. We ask that they be completed by February 15th. And I know it seems like a long way off, but with the holidays, it does go quickly. So due February 1st, but we give you this little bit of grace because we realize some schools don't send their information maybe as timely as we would like, but we want them complete by the 15th. Then after that, notification letters go out on March 3rd. The application itself is just information about your child, about, contact information, that kind of thing. There is a parent questionnaire, so we see your child through your eyes. For students in grades 7 and 8, they are asked to do an applicant questionnaire, so we see them through their own eyes. We obviously need their school records, any standardized testing they've taken in the school systems. We are not requiring admission testing this year. It is optional. But my recommendation, unless you are testing for another school that does require it, we would love to have those results. But if you don't have that responsibility to test for another school, I would recommend not testing. It's optional. You don't need it unless you're applying to another school. Our application is fully online, so you just establish a username and password, enter the portal, and you can accomplish most of the application in the online process. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about that, Mr. Lopes.
Well, I don't have a question about that, but there are a couple of questions coming in the chat. But before we turn over to those questions that are in the chat, excuse me, are there any folks that have questions about the information that Mrs. Ballack went over? Okay, so let me tackle the easy one first. So that is students and travel with athletics. So the radius for, unlike the upper school programs, middle schoolers are not traveling out of town. So the schools that we compete with include Riviera Ridge, Crane, Santa Barbara Middle School, St. Raphael, and Providence, and other schools here in the Santa Barbara area. So we do have school vans and buses, and sometimes we set up carpools depending on the day for the family and things like that. But the travel is not extensive. And then the other question was about bullies. What about bullies? If there are any issues about bullies, how is it handled? Great question. And then the other question is there a GATES program? So I'll end with bullies. That's a fun topic to end on. GATE, we do not have a GATE program, but we do have the ability to accelerate students as needed based on their level, particularly in math and world language. And so, for example, in 8th grade, so 5th, 6th, and 7th grades, students are required to take Spanish, French, and Latin. And then in 8th grade, students have the choice of either one of those 3 languages. And there are times when 8th graders test into a higher level. And one of the students on the call, Stella, I believe, is in French 4. Is that right? So it is possible to accelerate in world language, also known as foreign language. Additionally, math is another pathway where a student could be at a different level than a classmate, whether they're an 8th grader in geometry or a 7th grader in algebra. So that all depends on a variety of factors that our department chair and our teachers are looking at to place you. So that is how we meet students where they are within their course assignments, their course selections. But it's not technically a GATE program. I'll also mention that 5th graders do not have letter grades. Letter grades start in grade 6. So forgive my sarcasm earlier. It's not a funny topic. The first thing I'll say about what about bullies is that I truly believe that there is no bad student at the school. There's no bad kid. Students there's good in each of our students. We have good people here. Students may make mistakes, and some mistakes may be in line with the definition of bullying behavior. I would not label any one of our students as a bully, but there have been times over the years where a student may feel like they're receiving bullying treatment. And I will say that that's not tolerated at all. There is a difference between a person being mean and a person bullying, and we distinguish that on a few factors. So if the behavior is repeated, if it's targeted, if it is in a group bullying situation, those are all factors that we look at. And in our student family handbook, which every family receives in the summer, it outlines our approach to our rules and community expectations and how we handle various situations as it relates to consequences. But going back to the original slide about relationships, our goal and my goal is that the first conversation I have with any family is one that's positive, and it's not one that involves a student being a quote unquote in trouble. And that's for a few reasons. One of the reasons is when we have this conversation, when a student makes a mistake, I know the good in that student. We know the good in him or her. And we have that foundation to go off of, and we have that rapport where we can navigate tougher conversations with one another. And so that I do want to highlight that. Additionally, how it's handled and is that there needs to be learning, and the home school partnership is really key. That the values being reiterated at home are in line with the values we're trying to instill here at school, and so that's where that really kicks in. And as long as a student is learning and becoming better from it, then it ends up working out. And if that isn't the case, then we have to take more serious measures of accountability. So that's the long answer. The short answer is that we don't tolerate it at all, and we want every student to feel safe physically, emotionally, psychologically. And when things like that come up, that becomes my top priority, and the list of things that I may have for the day becomes secondary, because we want to make sure that every student can be themselves and feel safe when they come to school. So thank you for listening to my long answer.
So we have another one that's popped up in the question. It's how about chemistry, physics, and biology? How involved are students in the lab experience? Maybe Luca, could you address that? And then maybe either Amelia or maybe both Amelia and Nicolo as well. So you could present not only from your 8th grade, but also your 9th grade experience, because that's when biology comes in as a core course in the high school. Luca, why don't you start?
So when I did it in 7th grade, like an example of how we did, it was like very basic biology. It didn't go too much into the depths, but one of the labs was like, your team has to grow a plant and then they have to fertilize the other plants using the plant that you grew to create similar like kind of like try to clone the plants. So it's kind of like that in 7th grade. And then when you get towards 8th grade, we have the labs get a little more, I don't want to say dangerous, but we start to use some more dangerous tools. Like we had a lab where we have to coat pennies in zinc, and then we have to burn them to turn them to gold, or not actual gold, but like give them a gold color. And we used, forgot what it's called. It's like one of those torches that you turn on and it burns whatever you want to burn. So I feel like in 8th grade, the labs start to get really involved and feel like you're actually a scientist and the researcher.
I love that you made ice cream too this year.
Yeah, I made ice cream using liquid nitrogen. So yeah.
Let's see, Amelia, do you want to take it next?
Yeah, so all the experiments that we do are really hands-on, and most of the time we're doing experiments in groups. We have like table groups or lab teams. In terms of like the different like physics, biology, chemistry, in middle school you just got your science class. I think 8th grade is a core focus on a lot of physics stuff. And one thing that we did do last year, I don't know if they're doing it again this year, but in 8th grade, we went to Six Flags at the end of the year, and we got to use all of the knowledge of everything that we learned about inertia and acceleration and all that jazz. And we got to do a bunch of like experiments while riding roller coasters, which was a ton of fun. And it was really cool to apply everything that we learned in a classroom setting out in like the real world. And then in high school, you move into like the more specialized science classes. This year I'm taking biology, which most of the 9th graders are taking biology. And then usually you take chemistry sophomore year, but that can vary from person to person. But all the labs that we do are really fun, really hands-on. And it's super cool that you're not just staring at a whiteboard the whole time. You get to like use your hands and actually like see what you're learning about, and not just hear someone talk to you about it. But yeah.
Nicolo?
Yeah, sure. Amelia explained it pretty well, but yeah, I would say like especially like in 8th grade, for example, Mr. Moore he just really throws you into a bunch of labs, and you just learn while you're going. And yeah, I think Amelia explained it pretty well. In bio right now, it's same thing. We're doing a lot of labs, learning that way. I think just a lot very hands-on. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So we have one more, I think time for one more question, so that we get to release our students to have their dinner and do their homework. But how does the school help students build entrepreneurial and cognitive skills?
Are there any students here that have taken entrepreneurship class?
Luca?
All right, Luca.
Well, I have taken entrepreneurship, and that was a while ago, so I don't remember all the skills that I learned, but we get to learn there's this prompt that we use, which you have to make a product, and then you have to explain who's going to be exporting it for you and what you're going to price it at based on your budget and how much you paid for the materials that you need for that object. And then like later we get into we helped this company called Ventura Food Tours last year with like they had this, it was how to attract more customers to go on these tours. So we actually communicated with the boss of the company, and we proposed some solutions that we had through Google Slides and based on our learning.
Awesome, thank you. Well, we've come to the end of our hour. We're a little bit over. But I wanted to thank Mr. Lopes and of course, all of our students for sharing their thoughts about their classes, their experiences at Laguna, their learning experience, so that you can see what awaits your child if your child were to come to Laguna. So special thanks to our students and also to all of you for joining us this evening. And again, Mr. Lopes and I are available to answer any personal questions. We'll stay on, but we'll let our students go so they can get to dinner and do their homework. But thank you guys, you were awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.